Hello, everybody. Today we are going to focus on Chapter 6 on using credit. And we're going to be talking about how you get an appropriate credit card as a student, how you calculate interest rates, how you calculate average daily balance. We're going to look at the difference between open-ended credit and close-ended credit. And probably identify for you how you your FICO score is calculated. So there's really a number of super important topics that I hope are really relevant that will be incorporated in this unit. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just think about for a moment, what examples in your life do you have as to where you feel credit would be appropriate? And this might not be relevant to all of you if you are just fresh out of your home or what have you. But for most of us, just take a second to see if you can think of some examples where you think credit would be, it would be appropriate to pursue credit. Let me just give you a couple seconds to maybe jot those down or think about them. So really from a financial planning standpoint, we understand that it's really appropriate in a pretty limited number of situations. Emergencies, clearly we all know that something happens with our car or something, happens with, our computer blows up and we need it to go to school. I mean, those are financial emergencies that if you don't have cash savings, which we're talking about last chapter, we talked about how to start doing that on a monthly basis. Then we turn to credit. For large purchases, most of us can't go buy a car with cash. We have to borrow the money to do that. And then, convenience, I want to keep all my purchases on one statement. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, how if you don't have credit, how you can start to establish it. And that would meet the category of convenience. And then sometimes as we get maybe a little more sophisticated, further down our financial path, we use credit to invest. So I want to buy a piece of investment property, or that would be my best example. So so really, aside from these 4 points, it's inappropriate to use credit, which then begs the question, and I'd like you to just take a second and think about this too. What shouldn't you use credit for? In what situations is that not a solid idea? Just think about that for a second, please. So if you said either of these first two, that's completely correct. Many of us use credit for, oh my gosh, I just can't live without that new pair of boots. And it's like, sure you can. If you budgeted for them and you plan for them and you know that, you or your kiddo or whatever needs new boots for the winter, or your car needs studded tires for the winter, absolutely, that's in your budget, that's accounted for. But impulse purchases, they tell us with anything under $50 to $100, and I guess it's a different number for each family, but small impulse purchases, walk away from it. You're in Walmart, you're there to get diapers and juice and a shirt, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this, whatever electronic gadget that I want. They tell us to walk away from that for at least a day. So leave the store, think about it. And if you really, are like, boy, that really is something that's going to add value to my life and I can afford it, go back the next day and get it. With things that are considered major purchases, most of us don't buy those on impulse, but if you're tempted to buy something on impulse, it's a huge stretch in your budget and requires credit, you should step away from it for 3 days. So I've found that technique super helpful. I do it just as much as anybody. where I go to purchase a couple things and come home with 5. But I've really learned how to deal with these impulse purchases. You should not be using credit to meet basic living expenses. If you're going to the grocery store or putting gas in your car using credit, that is really the key definition of becoming illiquid, right? Not able to pay your bills as they come due. The basic rule of thumb is that whatever you're buying should outlive the payment schedule. So, you know, if you're buying a coffee maker and you're putting it on credit and you're, you know, it's taking you 15 months to buy it off or pay it off and it only lasts 6, that's not good. You know, if it takes you 5 years to pay off your car and it only lasts you 3 years, not good. So purchasing non-durable goods, you should not look at your credit card bill and see, you know, restaurants and coffee shops and, you know, theater tickets and things like that, because those aren't durable goods. If you're paying something off over time, it should be lasting it. And of course, another improper use of credit is if you're only making your minimum payments. So just to take a peek at this is, so when you get your credit card bill every month, and I know some of you don't have credit cards, so stick with me here. I'm trying to kind of give you the 101 on how they work. They will give you, so say you've got a $2,000 credit card bill, they will give you a minimum payment, and the minimum payment has to be at least, at least 3% of the outstanding amount. So if I owe $2,000, 3% of that's $60. So that's the minimum they can require me to pay. So, and it's like, oh, great, I'm only having to pay $60. But the problem with that is interest on credit cards can be quite high. And the longer it takes you to pay off that balance, the more you're going to pay in interest. So like here, if you're only making, so 15% annual percentage rate, right? That's my interest, 15%. And my minimum payments, 3% of my bill. At $5,000 credit card balance, if I'm making the minimum payment, and of course, interest continues to accrue on what's not paid, is going to take me 16 years. And my interest over that time period is going to be almost the original balance, right? So you can see in these examples, it's just insane when it's taking you this long period of time to pay off. Why are these not showing up? Oh, I guess we're supposed to calculate that. So total interest, oh yeah, I want you to calculate this, sorry. So if you can get out a calculator and see what percentage is the interest of the original balance. So, and do that for all three. I'll do the first one. So 3434 divided by 5,000. I'm paying 68.9%, no, 7%. Of my original balance in interest. So go figure it out for these other two numbers as well. And then hopefully the takeaway is like, oh my gosh, I want to do much more than the minimum payment. So turn off the tape and figure out those other two, please. So hopefully what the illustration here is that, holy crap, when I'm only making the minimum payment, I'm paying this much of my original balance again. So if I make, you know, if I have a $1,000 little mini vacation and I make the minimum payment on it, that's another 57.7%. So point is, that's not a good tactic. Okay, so for some of you that have credit, that's great. We're going to take a peek in a little bit on how you access your FICO score, which is your credit score. But some of you may not have credit. So how do I establish credit? Well, it's good to have it. Obviously, you have to be, it's important to be in the banking system. And they tell us about 20% of everybody is not in our official banking system. So you don't have any relationship with a bank. That's super, super important as far as establishing credit. It's also important, and I know a lot of you are like counterintuitive, I'm scared of credit, but someday I'm guessing you're going to want to buy a car or buy a house, or you're going to need some sort of official credit, even if you're living on your cash flow on a monthly basis now. And you're not going to be able to do that if you've never established credit. So really good way to establish credit is to take out a card with a really small balance, a low limit, and make small purchases and pay them off every month. And I've got a link on Moodle that takes you to cards that are designed exactly for students to establish credit. And what I encourage people to do is anything that you know that you have to buy on a monthly basis, that's what should go on this small limit credit card so that you can pay it off in totality every month. So for example, in my household, I know I've got $50 a month that I pay at PetSmart for, 2 cats and a dog, right, for their food. So every month I charge that, and $50, it's in my budget. And then every month I pay that off in total. I am building credit by doing that. Okay, so anything you've got every month, that's a really great way to start credit. Taking out a small loan and making payments. This might not be appropriate for some of you, but like with my kids, when they were at the end of high school, I had them take out their first car loans to buy their first used cars, and I co-signed for it, and then they made the payments. So that's another way to establish credit. If you've already got credit, obviously all these things are things you want to do to build good credit and maintain good credit. Don't get overextended. In other words, you really don't want to be taking any consumer debt that you can't pay off every month. So really the only things that should be on long-term credit is like your car or your mortgage, or God forbid you have a health or a vehicle emergency that it's like, crap, I've got $2,500 for my transmission or out-of-pocket medical costs. But really everything else you should be paying off every month. It should be reflected in your cash flow budget. Make sure you pay on time. And if you can't, let me just stress how incredibly critical this is, that you notify your creditors. Okay, they feel shame, they feel guilt, they're embarrassed, they don't know what to do. Call them. Hello, I lost my my roommate, and whatever, I can't make my payment this month, but I think I can pay 150% of it next month, or whatever. And if you keep them informed, that is really, really, really going to be beneficial to you in the long term. So the 5 C's of credit, right? How do you access it, and what's it all about? Character, capacity, collateral, capital, and condition. You can read all these. So basically some credit, obviously you've got to, have good faith effort to pay it. You've got to have the ability to repay it. I might want to drive a Model S, Tesla, but I don't have the capacity to make the payments on it. That doesn't matter. Collateral, sometimes with loans, the bank will ask for collateral. And collateral is when I give them something that if I don't repay it, then they can take it and use it to pay off the loan. So for example, when you buy a house or a piece of real estate or a car, the collateral is that they keep title to it until you've got it paid off. So they're going to come take it away if you don't make your payments. But if I'm trying to take out like a loan to start a small business and I need $30,000, they're going to say, hey, Lisa, do you have like some stocks and bonds that you can sign over to me so that if you don't make your payments, I can come get your collateral. I'm not quite sure what this means. Capital unencumbered, that's just a fancy term for assets that don't have debt on them. And condition is they've got to take a look at what's going on with economic variables. So how much credit can you stay on? This is a really, really salient topic. So it's called debt safety ratio, and it excludes your mortgage or your rent. Okay, so this is all your other debt, right? Student loans, car loans, credit card loans, et cetera, et cetera. The book suggests that you should not exceed 20% of your take-home income. So your monthly payments divided by your monthly take-home pay should not exceed 20%. I personally believe it should be closer to 10 to 15%. I've done the lab chat for this chapter is on your debt safety ratio. And here's the data regarding it. And so when you go do that lab chat, we'll review these facts. You're going to have this worksheet printed out and sitting in front of you, and we're going to go through that together. And that's a really important concept from this chapter, and hopefully something that you will use in the future for yourself. So staying close to that, understanding that that 10 to 15% is really your target for your monthly debt. So there's different kinds of credit. There's closed-ended credit and open-ended credit. Credit cards are open-ended credit in that they give you a limit, and then you can borrow up to that limit at your own pace. So I might get a credit card with a $2,500 limit, and I might not ever go over 300 bucks. Or I might go out the next day and purchase something for 2,500 bucks and max it out. So that's open-ended, right? You can buy it to a specified credit limit. And there's two kinds. You can get them directly. You can have open-ended credit directly with a retailer, like, JCPenney's or Best Buy or, Lowe's or something. Or you can go to a financial institution, to your bank or, a capital company and get it through them. And then you get monthly statements. And if you want to get out from underpaying interest, which some of these can be quite high, as we'll see, then gosh, I want to pay my balance in full every month. So again, credit cards, it's like a personal line of credit. Here, Lisa, go crazy. You got 2,500 bucks. So there's different things that I can use it for, and there's different interest rates, even though it's the same card, associated with each of these items. Okay, so I can go out and buy stuff, merchandise purchases. I can also take out cash. So I owe somebody 500 bucks. They don't want a credit card. They want their 500 bucks. I can take a cash advance. Or if I've got other balances on other credit cards that are maybe like at a higher rate, I can transfer those balances to my current card. And generally people will do that when they're trying to consolidate their debt. In other words, bring it all under one umbrella so that you can manage it better than having a bunch of different cards. So, and again, these will have different rates oftentimes. Balance transfers and cash advances many times will be at a higher annual interest rate. Now, how do they quote the rate? Credit cards are normally quoted at something called prime plus a percentage. Okay, prime plus a percentage. Prime is what United States Treasury bills are paying at any point in time. So, and that vacillates, and that depends upon what's going on in the economy. So they'll tell, and it's called, if it's a variable rate card, that means, where am I going here? Sorry. If it's a variable rate card, that means that as prime changes, your rate can change. So I'm looking at a credit card and it says the rate is prime plus 9%. And there's a minimum rate of 13.2. These are APR, right? Annual percentage rate, and a maximum rate of 17.99. So I'd like you to turn off the tape and do 2 calculations for me. Tell me what my rate is if I get this card, and when I get it, prime is 4%. Then tell me what my rate is, my APR is, if when I get this card, right, prime plus 9, prime is 5.2. And just turn off the tape for a quick second and calculate that for me, please. Oops. Okay, so in the first example, prime is 4 plus 9% equals 13, but the minimum, okay, you can't ever go outside of these parameters. The minimum's 13.2, so that's what I'm gonna be required to pay. This one, 5.2% plus 9% equals 14.2%. And that's within the parameters, so that's my rate, okay? So if you're comparing credit cards, it's really important that you understand how that works. Now, if prime adjusts, so if prime goes up, your rate's gonna go up. So your question is, how often does your card adjust rates? Does it adjust it every month? Does it adjust it every quarter? Does it adjust it every year? And if you're in a period of inflation, which we are right now, that can really impact your annual percentage rate because it's based on the prime. And also this is super, super important. I will be quite honest, my first credit card, I didn't really get this, and it was quite a wake-up call. So teaser rates are where they bring you in and they're like, we're gonna charge you, you know, like a flat rate of like 1% for 6 months. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's practically free money. You end up building up a balance, and then after 6 months, they adjust it to 20%. Okay, totally can do that, totally legal. It's called a teaser rate. So these are all things that you want to watch out for. What's the prime? What's the min max? How often does it adjust? And what happens after this you know, honeymoon period expires? What rate is it going to translate to? Okay, and then the real kerfuffle that you have to watch for is that there's a bunch of other fees, or can be, okay? Annual fee, we just charge you $100 to have, you know, a platinum American Amex card because it's a prestige card. Or if you get cards where you get mileage with it, or you get points with it that you can convert to dollars, they'll charge you, you know, $100 a year for that. Well, you know, I mean, that's great if you've just accrued $2,000 worth of, you know, airline tickets or $2,000 of points, but it's not great if you only accrued $40 worth. So you've got to be really asked the question about annual fees. Transaction fees, do you charge me to charge, right? That's not very common in the country. But if you travel out of the country, that's a very, very big deal that there's international transaction fees. What is my fee or my penalty if I pay late? What's my penalty if I go over my limit? And then again, this balance transfer fee I was talking about, it's usually when you're trying to consolidate, they will tease you with a low entry rate and then pop those things up pretty high. Okay, after the Great Recession of 2008 and the Credit Card Act of 2009 was implemented, because a lot of things came to light as to really how consumers were, I mean, not getting fleeced, but I mean, well, yeah, kind of getting fleeced, and not with credit card companies not being transparent. So here's some things that used to be okay. Your interest rate would just get changed like that, and you weren't even notified. Cards were being issued to people that had no jobs, no income, no assets, right? Or they'd make these changes and then apply the interest rate change retroactively. So really, really bad stuff, really, really tough on consumers. So now on page 236, you can see all these things. You've got to be given notice before they raise the interest rate on you. So maybe it's time to start shopping around. Under 18, you can't get a card. I mean, it's a much more tightened up set of rules. Okay, there's different kinds of bank credit cards. I've kind of talked about some of these. There's reward cards where you get like frequent flyer miles or you accrue points. There's affinity cards. An affinity card is when you are part of an organization that gets a little bit of the transaction fees. So like there's a Grizz card, right? Where you can have a credit card that's got, Go Grizz on it. And every time you charge, you purchase something, you go down to the iron, and not down to the iron horse because you would never spend money on food and drink. You go and you purchase your groceries for the month, and then you're going to pay it off next month. So you go to Rose Hours, they pay the 3% fee, and a little piece of that goes to the Grizzly, fund, or the Nature Conservancy or World Wildlife Alliance or something like that. It's an affinity card. It's an organization you feel strongly about, and a piece of each of your purchases is going to go help out that organization. It doesn't cost you any more money. I think maybe the fee on the card might be a little higher on an annual basis, but per transaction, it doesn't cost you. You can, and this is for folks that have had trouble with credit in the past, and now they're trying to reestablish a credit card, you can get a secured or collateralized credit card. So you purchase a certificate of deposit, say for $500. So you go to the bank, you give them $500, you buy a CD, which we studied about last chapter, that's got a pretty low interest rate because it's a very cash-like instrument. And then you sign the title to that over to the credit card company, and they extend you credit. And because you've had bad credit in the past. And then you show for a year or two that you're being responsible with your credit, that you're making your payments, that you're not going over limit. And then you get the title to your CD back. So that helps you to re-establish credit. And then student credit cards, again, there's a great link on Moodle. I really encourage you to all go look at that. I'm just going to pull this over really quick. So it's right here, compare student credit cards. And it's got a list of the best credit cards for college students, and it tells you why. And if you have interest in getting established, getting credit established, this is what you want to do. So just so you know that that's there. Okay, retail credit cards, again, this is when you go to, Cabela's, or you go to Dillard's and you get a card that's got their name on it. Okay, I don't recommend these at all. It's a preset credit limit. Okay, great. You put in all your information. They're like, you can spend up to $1,000 at Cabela's. Okay, great. And but they usually have really high interest rates. And the other thing is, this is an easy way to get out of control with credit, because you've got your, you've got your main credit card, but then, I've got a Dillard's card, and I've got a Cabela's card, and I've got a, PetSmart card or whatever. You've got your credit really spread out between a lot of places. It's much more difficult to manage. I have always, in our whole lives together, we've had one credit card. Okay, so that at any point in time, I can go into that one credit card and I can see exactly what we owe. When you get spread out, and obviously they want you to get their credit cards because they're going to earn a bunch of interest off of you, and B, probably entice you to buy more than you really can afford to buy in that particular place. So they'll be like, oh, you're at Hobby Lobby and we're going to give you, 10% off this order if you fill out a credit card app. I definitely advise against this. We went over what debit cards were in the last chapter. I'm not going to go into that too much, but we did talk about how there's many situations. There was a table I went through, many situations where a credit card is preferable to a debit card. And let me just also reiterate that it's much more easy to have debit cards fraudulently used and your identity misrepresented. Okay, so a revolving credit line is probably a little bit more sophisticated than most of you are at right now, but I do want to talk about it. It's pretty important. So that's where you don't have a card per se. I mean, you can't take it out and use it to purchase merchandise or services in the community. But what it is it's with your bank and it's just sort of sitting there if you need it. So, and I've used both this one and this one pretty extensively over the years. So an overdraft protection line, and I really advise you to have one of these. This is another great way to build credit, and it also protects you if you're one of those people that has a checking account that's pretty, can be pretty tight, and you sometimes struggled with overdrafts, which of course carry fees and ding your credit. Is you say to your bank, like, hey, can you write me a credit line for $500 or $1,000? And if you overdraft, and I mean, they're not going to do it if you don't have good credit, or if you have a savings account, if you don't have a savings account. But so they write me an overdraft line for $1,000. And then I end up going over, I write a check that clears before my paycheck hits. And it's like, oh my gosh, it threw me $300 in the hole. They move money from my credit line over to cover that check. And then of course, they're going to start accruing daily interest on it. But then my check hits the next day and I'm like, oh, I can go pay it back. So I go in to my online banking, I pay back with, now it's $300.08, right? I pay the bank back. So that's overdraft protection. It's a really great tool to protect you and also to build credit. Unsecured personal credit, the only time I think that you're going to get that is if you're like starting a business. This is another really powerful tool. It's called home equity. And it's if you own a home, it's tapping into your own equity or the percentage of the home that you've already paid off. Or that it's appreciated in value. And you can tap into your home equity and pull money out it's your own money that's sitting in that house, right? So say, like I partially paid for my kids' college by doing this. So I do want to take you through a problem doing this. We've got some homework on this. So I want to go through an example. So get out paper and pencil and calculator. Home equity line. So I go to my bank and I say, gosh, I bought this house for $210,000 and I still owe 190 on it, right? My outstanding mortgage, but it's gone up to value. It's got $290,000. It's like what I can sell it for. And I'm looking to pull some money from the equity in my house, i.e. the point of my house that I own, to send my kid to college. How much can I borrow? So they go, well, the terms of the loan are 80% LTV, loan to value. So they're not going to lend me up to the total amount of the fair market value. They're going to give themselves a cushion. So up to 80% of the fair market value, they'll look at to loan me. But then of course you've also got to subtract out the mortgage. So shut off the tape. Tell me how much you think the bank will write me a revolving credit line for. And then think about what you think the pros and cons of a home equity line are. So turn off the tape and see if you can work that, please. Okay, so $290,000 is what it's worth. It doesn't matter what you bought it for. That's completely irrelevant. So that's just a piece of information, you know, basically that you don't need. What I do need to know is how much do I still owe on it and what is it appraised at? And to get one of these, you have to pay somebody to come out and appraise your house. Well, they think I can sell it for $290. The bank's like, I'll give you 80% of that because I want some cushion. So $232 is the max. You owe $190 on it. So obviously you can't pull any of that out. So there's $42,000. I'll write you a line of credit for that. So if you want to take out $5 grand of that, you can. If you want to take out 42 grand of that, you can. This is a great tool for things like college. So or starting a business, or it's not a great thing for like, oh, I've always wanted to go hike the Incan Trail and I'm going to spend 15 grand to go to Peru. Okay, these are for things that there's going to be a direct payback. I mean, college is a little different because that's more of a long-term investment, but you know, you've really got to use this judiciously. So the pros are you have access to your own net worth, right? This is my own equity in my home. The con is if you can't make the payments on this, guess what they get to come take, right? Is your house. So if you do this kind of thing, home equity lines, you have got to be somebody that is very, 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 very sure that they are a responsible credit user. Okay, along the lines of responsible credit users, here's a whole laundry list of things to stay away from. Payday loans, pawn shops, car title loans, really, really, really high interest rates, unbelievably high interest rates. In fact, I'm not even sure that payday loans are allowed in Montana anymore. There was a piece of legislation in front of our state legislature a couple of years ago, and I don't know if it passed or not, but I mean, these can be crazy. 260% a year, 390% a year. It's just, these are what are called shadow lenders, and they basically prey upon people that don't have good credit and need access to it. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go too much into this because there's, we looked at that link, but how do you get credit? You fill out an application. They're going to do a credit investigation. If you don't have any credit, that's, I think a couple of the cards speak to that and give you an opportunity to get a card and build that credit. And then there's going to be a scoring. And it's called FICO. Let's see what that stands for. Fair Isaac and Company. And it was gosh, I think it was back in like the 1890s. This was the name of the company that started this idea of calculating credit to help capital sources determine whether or not you were a good risk. And there's like levels of risk. So if you've got a fabulous FICO score, you're gonna be able to borrow money at a much lower rate than somebody that's way down here. And if you're in between, you know, then your interest rate's gonna be in between. So FICO only uses your credit information, right? So some other credit scoring schemes also look at, like, are you a boy or a girl? Are you married or single? Are you, you know, what kind of job do you have, right? So they factor in all sorts of demographic data in order to assess a score and therefore the risk, right? So, so a 30-year-old married woman is less risk than a 22-year-old single guy, for example. But FICO doesn't do that. FICO only uses your credit information. So if you have no credit information, you can't have a FICO score. And here's what they look at, and here's the weights. They look at your payment history. They look at the amount owed. So they want to see this, right? They don't want to see huge spikes. They want to see this. The length of your credit history. Obviously, if you've only had a credit history for 2 months, that doesn't give me as much history as if you've had credit history for 20 years. They look at your new credit, right? So if all of a sudden you've had a spike in new credit applications, that's a warning sign. And types of credit used. So again, if you're with these shadow lenders, or you've got a bunch of retail cards, that does not bode well either. And then here's your range of scores between 300 and 850, the median being about 695. If your FICO's been hammered for a reason, like, you know, not paying on time or not contacting your creditors if you can't make payments, or any of the things we talked about, minimum payments is a red sign, all of that. How are you going to raise your FICO if it's been, you know, if it's been decimated? Just all these things. And I'll be quite honest. I mean, if your credit's taken a hit, it will take you time to raise it. You just need to, you know, do the best you can to pay off credit card balances or to pay them down, but still keep them alive so that you have access to credit. So, you know, I pay the thing down, God, I got it up to $6,000, takes me 5 years, I get it down to $500. Now I'm going to responsibly use credit every month and pay off my full balance. That's a really good idea. Obviously, you don't want any new credit cards, and obviously you don't want to be playing the balance transfer game. Okay, so shopping around for the best deal as you're looking to get your first credit card, or say that you've just listened to this lecture and you're thinking, boy, my credit card is at a really high rate. How do I look around? So we know that you look at the annual fees. We know that you look at that prime plus whatever and the minimum maximum, and is it variable or fixed? There's different ways of calculating balances, which I'm not going to do that today because I'm going to do another short lecture on that. But there's different ways that a credit card can just do an average between the beginning and ending of the month, or they can do an ADB, average daily balance. And yeah, so there's different things that you need to look at when you're making the decision which credit card is going to be best for my needs. So like, I don't carry a balance on my credit card, so I could care less about the interest rate because I don't pay an interest rate because I pay it off every month. So I really care about the annual fee. Okay. But if you're somebody that carries a balance, then the interest rates are probably going to be pretty darn important to you because that's going to be incorporated in your monthly payment. So it depends upon what you do use it for. So I'm going to sign off now. I think, what am I on, 22? There's going to be a second lecture that's going to finish the rest of this. It's going to be kind of calculation intensive. And then there's also a lab chat that is that debt safety worksheet that you should do for this chapter. So I hope this has been really interesting and important. I think it is for you guys, and good luck with this chapter. Bye.